Good morning all. Today we will continue with hypothalamus. In the previous class we have studied about the various nuclei of hypothalamus, and now in this class we will continue with the functions of hypothalamus. Hypothalamus, as I have told you in the previous class, is one of the very important structure situated below the cerebral cortex, because it has got many vital centers which controls many vital functions of the body. So here we will start with the functions of hypothalamus. The first function of hypothalamus is secretion of posterior pituitary hormones. So the posterior pituitary hormones, mainly ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, and oxytocin, both these hormones are secreted here in the hypothalamus by supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei. After getting secreted here, these hormones are transported to posterior pituitary. Then the second function is control of anterior pituitary gland. So hypothalamus, it controls anterior pituitary by secreting several releasing hormones and inhibitory hormones. So here the various releasing and inhibitory hormones which are secreted by the hypothalamus to control the anterior pituitary are: first one is GHRH, that is growth hormone releasing hormone. Second one is GHRP, that is growth hormone releasing polypeptide. Third one is GHIH or somatostatin, that is growth hormone inhibiting hormone. Then the next one is TRH. TRH is thyroprotein releasing hormone. Then next one is CRH. CRH is corticotropin releasing hormone. Then next one is GnRH. GnRH is gonadotropin releasing hormone. Then the last one is PIH, that is prolactin inhibiting hormone. So by secreting these hormones, hypothalamus controls the anterior pituitary. Then the third function is control of adrenal cortex. So here adrenal cortex is also controlled by the hypothalamus. Here anterior pituitary, here it mainly secretes the hormone ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone. So this adrenocorticotropic hormone, it regulates adrenal cortex. This ACTH is mainly regulated by the corticotropin releasing hormone, CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone. This hormone is secreted by hypothalamus. So anterior pituitary secretes ACTH, and this ACTH regulates adrenal cortex, and this ACTH is regulated by CRH, that is corticotropin releasing hormone. That is how indirectly hypothalamus regulates adrenal cortex or controls adrenal cortex. Then the fourth function is control of adrenal medulla. So hypothalamus controls adrenal medulla with the help of two centers here. One is dorsomedial and posterior hypothalamic nuclei. So whenever a person is under any emotional stress or during excitement, so this emotional stress or during excitement, these two centers, that is dorsomedial center and posterior hypothalamic nuclei, these two nuclei are stimulated, and they will stimulate the adrenal medulla, and from adrenal medulla there will be a release of catecholamines. Catecholamines are mainly three catecholamines are there, that is dopamine, epinephrine and norepinephrine. So these catecholamines, they decrease the blood pressure. So they regulate the blood pressure here. So this is how hypothalamus controls adrenal medulla. Then the fifth function is regulation of autonomic nervous system. Hypothalamus regulates the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system has got two divisions: sympathetic division and parasympathetic division. The sympathetic division is mainly regulated by posterior and lateral nuclei, and parasympathetic division is regulated by anterior group of nuclei. Then the sixth function is regulation of heart rate. So here heart rate can increase or it can decrease. So whenever the posterior and lateral, this posterior stimulation of posterior and lateral group of nuclei increases the heart rate, and the stimulation of preoptic and anterior nuclei decreases the heart rate. Then the next function is regulation of blood pressure. Here also the blood pressure is also regulated by hypothalamus through the vasomotor center of medulla oblongata. So here again the stimulation of posterior and lateral nuclei of hypothalamus increases blood pressure, and stimulation of preoptic nuclei decreases the blood pressure. Then the eighth function is regulation of body temperature. So here to regulate the body temperature, here there are two centers are there in the hypothalamus. One is called as a heat loss center, and second one is called as heat gain center. This heat loss center is situated there in the preoptic nuclei, whereas the heat gain center is situated there in the posterior hypothalamic nucleus. Then the next function is regulation of hunger and food. So here for the regulation of hunger and food, again there are two centers are there here in the hypothalamus. One is called as a feeding center, and second one is called as a satiety center. This feeding center, it is situated there in the lateral hypothalamic nucleus. Feeding center is situated in the lateral hypothalamic nucleus. Stimulation of this center will cause uncontrolled hunger or the increased food intake. Appetite will increase here. Person will eat more if the feeding center is stimulated. And the second center, that is satiety center, this center is situated there in the ventromedial nucleus of hypothalamus. Whenever this center is stimulated, here it will cause total loss of appetite or stoppage of food intake. Person will stop taking the food. There is complete loss of appetite when this center is stimulated. That is how it regulates hunger and food intake. This is the ninth function. The next one is the regulation of water balance. Here the body water balance is regulated by two mechanisms by hypothalamus. There is a mechanism called as by thirst center and by ADH mechanism. So this thirst center here in the hypothalamus, it is situated in the lateral nucleus of hypothalamus. So this thirst center is stimulated whenever the extracellular fluid there in the body decreases. Whenever the extracellular fluid of the body decreases, this lateral nucleus of hypothalamus is stimulated, and because of this, here it causes increase in the thirst. And when the thirst increases, person will drink more and more water. And when a person drinks more and more water, then again the level of water in the extracellular space will come to normal. This is how it regulates the water balance in the body. And the second mechanism is the ADH mechanism. So here again in the ADH mechanism, what happens? So here whenever the level of extracellular fluid in the body decreases, this will cause stimulation of supraoptic nucleus, which is situated in the hypothalamus. So decrease in the ESF will stimulate the supraoptic nucleus, and because of the stimulation of supraoptic nucleus, there will be a release of antidiuretic hormone ADH, and this ADH will cause a retention of water by reabsorption in renal tubules. This is how, with the help of ADH mechanism, here the water balance is regulated. Then the next function is regulation of sleep and wakefulness. So this regulation of sleep and wakefulness, there is a center here situated in the posterior hypothalamus, that is mammillary body, which is situated in the posterior hypothalamus. This mammillary body is called as a wakefulness center. So whenever this center is stimulated, here it will cause wakefulness. A person will remain alert, wakeful, he will not get sleep if this center is continuously stimulated. And if there is any lesion in this center, if there is some pathology in this center, that will cause sleep, complete sleep. So because of this, what happens? Because of the stimulation of this center, it will cause complete loss of wakefulness. A person will remain in the sleep for a long time whenever this center is affected, that is mammillary body. Then the next function is role in behavior and emotional changes. For this, again there are two centers are there here in the hypothalamus, which controls the behavior and emotions. These two centers are called as a reward center and a punishment center. So this reward center is situated in the medial forebrain bundle and ventromedial nucleus of hypothalamus. So whenever this center is stimulated, so because of the stimulation of this center, it will cause satisfaction. A person will feel satisfied, a person will feel happy, a person will feel agreed when this center is stimulated. That is called as reward center. If a person does something and a person feels happy for this thing, it means his reward center is stimulated. Then the second center is punishment center. This punishment center is situated there in the posterior and lateral nuclei of hypothalamus. So whenever this punishment center is stimulated, stimulation of this center will cause changes like disagreement. Stimulation of this center will produce elements of disagreement like pain, fear, defense, escape reactions. All these things will come. So whenever a person does something and the person who is standing in front of him will get fear, pain, or don't want to listen to him, disagrees with him, it means this person has stimulated the punishment center of that person. So this is how the behavior and emotions are controlled by hypothalamus. So this is the role of hypothalamus in behavior and emotional changes. So there are two centers are there. One is reward center, because whenever this center is stimulated, person will feel satisfied. Punishment center, whenever this center is stimulated, a person will get dissatisfied, will get anger, will get fear, will get pain, like this. This is how it has got a role in the behavior and emotion. Then the next function is regulation of sexual functions. So these sexual functions there in the body, they are mainly regulated by arcuate and posterior hypothalamic nuclei. So these two nuclei regulate the sexual functions. Then the next function is role in response to smell. For example, if a person gets some smell, this person will give some response to that smell. So because of that smell, a person may feel very happy. Like for example, a person is putting some agarbatti or some this thing smelling substance, then a person may feel good for that, may give a good response. Or if some like corporation vehicle is coming with wastage and all those things, and that smell is coming, how you feel for that? You don't feel happy for that. So this is an individualistic response to that particular smell here. So this response may be in the form of a fear, excitement, or pleasure. So this is also controlled by hypothalamus. So this is the role of hypothalamus in response to smell. Then the last function is role in circadian rhythm. So this circadian rhythm, it means it is a 24-hour cycle. So this 24-hour cycle, various changes are occurring there in the body at a regular interval of 24 hours. So here the regular recurrence of physiological processes or activities which occur in a cycle of 24 hours is called as circadian rhythm. So this circadian rhythm, this is mainly controlled by a nucleus called as suprachiasmatic nucleus. There is a nucleus called as suprachiasmatic nucleus which regulates this center, that is which regulates this function. Suprachiasmatic nucleus regulates circadian rhythm. At an interval of 24 hours, a person will get various functions here. For example, a person will sleep at one particular time. For example, a person is sleeping at 11 p.m. at night. Regularly, daily at 11 p.m. he will feel sleepy. So at that particular time he will sleep for next to 8 to 9 hours, he will sleep there. So this is occurring regularly. So at a regular cyclical events are occurring here. This is called as circadian rhythm. So hypothalamus has got an important role in circadian rhythm to regulate the circadian rhythm. So this is about the functions of hypothalamus.